Throw that food in the trash, Naomi. Beggars do not eat from my kitchen. Vanessa Price tore the dented paper meal box from Naomi Brooks, and the red apron string snapped across Naomi's fingers. The back door of the diner stood open. Workers turned. Phones rose. A blind black man stood beside the garbage bins with rain on his coat and one shaking hand on his white cane. Naomi reached for the box like it was medicine, not food. Please, Miss Vanessa. My mother needs to eat before her pills. But he has not eaten either. Vanessa laughed, her gold watch shining beside Naomi's torn sleeve. So you steal from this diner and call it mercy? The blind man touched the lid with 2 fingers. His face changed when he felt the words written there. No one eats alone. Who taught you that sentence? He whispered. Nobody answered him. Everyone was watching Naomi fall apart. Vanessa shoved the box back into Naomi's chest so hard the cornbread broke inside. Say it loud, she snapped. Tell them you stole food for a street beggar. Naomi held the meal with both hands. It was the last plate from the staff tray. Collard greens, 1 piece of cornbread, a little cup of stew tied with the red string from her apron. It had been meant for Ruth Brooks, her sick mother, who could not take kidney medicine on an empty stomach. It had also been meant for Marcus, her 12-year-old brother, who had smiled that morning and said he was not hungry. Naomi knew that smile. Poor children used it when they wanted adults to survive one more day. I did not steal, Naomi said. You told me the food was going into the trash. Vanessa stepped closer. Her heels clicked on the wet concrete. Behind her, customers in clean coats gathered near the hallway. One woman held a designer purse against her chest like poverty could stain it. A man in a tailored suit smirked at Naomi's shoes. Vanessa pointed at the blind man. That is trash. That is where people like him belong. The blind man lowered his head. A dishwasher near the door stopped laughing when he saw Naomi's eyes. For 1 second, he looked ready to speak. Vanessa turned on him. Do you want to lose your shift too? He looked down. Hope died before it stood up. Naomi tried to hand the meal to the blind man. Vanessa slapped her wrist, not enough to injure her, only enough to shame her. The box fell near a puddle. The lid opened. The words faced the crowd again. No one eats alone. A phone camera zoomed in. Someone whispered, she got caught feeding homeless men with stolen food. Another voice said, post it. Naomi bent down, but Vanessa put one heel on the edge of the box. Leave it there. Naomi stayed crouched, one hand on the cold ground, the other pressed over the folded pharmacy receipt in her pocket. $48 for pills. $14 in cash. Rent past due. Her mother waiting at home. Her brother pretending hunger was not hunger. And now a blind man being treated like garbage. Please, Naomi said. Let him eat first. Fire me after. Humiliate me after. But let him eat first. The alley went quiet. Vanessa hated that silence because it made the crowd remember she was cruel. Her smile hardened. She snatched up the box and forced it into Naomi's hands. Feed him then. But after this, you are done. Naomi walked to the blind man. Her hands shook, but she retied the box with the torn red apron string. Slowly, carefully, as if dignity could be held together by one small piece of cloth. Sir, she whispered, it is not much. The man did not take it at first. His fingers touched the string, then the handwriting, then the crushed corner. Your name, he said. Vanessa cut in. Her name is Thief. Naomi looked at him, not at Vanessa. Naomi Brooks. The blind man went still. His hand closed around the red string like her name had opened an old wound. Brooks, he repeated. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. For one breath, her face lost color. Then she clapped twice. Security. A heavy man stepped from the hallway. Take her out before she starts crying for donations. Naomi turned back to Vanessa. Please, my mother is sick. I need this job. Then you should have protected it. Hungry people were eating here before you put your name on that office door, Naomi said. The crowd froze. Vanessa stared at her. Drag her out. Security grabbed Naomi's arm and pulled her toward the alley gate. Her pharmacy receipt slipped from her pocket and landed in the water. Vanessa picked it up, read it, and smiled. Kidney medicine, she said loudly. Now the thief comes with a sad little story. Naomi stopped struggling. Her mother's pain had become entertainment. The gate slammed behind her. Inside the alley, Vanessa dusted her hands like the shame was finished. But the blind man had not moved. He held the crushed meal box against his chest. His thumb rested on the red string. Then he reached inside the torn lining of his coat and pulled out a small black phone. When he spoke, his voice was no longer weak. It was quiet, controlled, dangerous. "Denise," he said, "find everything on Naomi Brooks. And find Ruth Brooks, too." He touched the words on the box one more time. "Miriam's kitchen may still be alive." The small black phone slipped back into the torn lining of the blind man's coat, but his hand stayed on the crushed meal box. Vanessa Price was still inside the alley, smiling as if shame had cleaned the floor for her. "Clean this mess," she told the dishwasher. "And if anyone asks, Naomi Brooks was fired for stealing." The young man looked at the red apron string in the blind man's hand. His lips parted. Vanessa stepped close. "You saw nothing kind. You saw theft." He looked down. Fear chose for him. Outside the gate, Naomi stood in the rain with no job, no food, and no way to tell her mother that the medicine would have to wait. Her uniform smelled of grease. Her shoes were soaked. Her fingers still burned where the string had snapped. Behind the diner windows, customers sat under warm lights, lifting silver forks, laughing over plates Naomi could never afford. One world had chandeliers, clean napkins, and full tables. Naomi had a plastic bag with unpaid bills, a wet pharmacy receipt, and $14 in her pocket. She wiped her face before strangers could call her tears another trick. "I did not steal," she whispered. But the street gave her no witness. Across the road, a black luxury sedan rolled slowly beside the curb. Naomi did not see it. Inside, Denise Carter lowered her tablet and looked at the man beside her. He was no longer bent like a helpless beggar. He sat straight, the meal box resting on his lap. "She is walking home alone," Denise said. He touched the words on the lid. "No one eats alone. Follow from a distance," he said. "Do not scare her. You know that sentence." His jaw tightened. "Someone I loved, build a kitchen around it." Naomi walked 3 blocks until the rich dining street faded behind her. Marble storefronts became pawn shops. Valet stands became broken bus benches. The smell of steak became wet concrete and cheap fried oil. At the corner, Marcus Brooks waited under a cracked awning, too small for his jacket and too proud to shiver. "Naomi," he called, then saw her empty hands. "They did not let you bring food?" Naomi bent and touched his cold cheek. "Not tonight." Marcus nodded fast. "I can sleep early. If I sleep, I will not feel hungry." That broke her quietly. Poor people did not always break with noise. Sometimes they broke standing on a sidewalk while a child tried to make hunger sound like a plan. "You should never have to say that," Naomi whispered. A woman passing by recognized her from the video already spreading online. She slowed down and muttered, "That is the diner thief." Marcus stepped in front of Naomi. "She is not a thief." Tiny courage, tiny shame, both stood in the rain. If you're listening from your city right now, comment where you're watching from and who you believe in this moment. The manager with power or the woman holding a ruined medicine receipt with nothing left to gain. Naomi took Marcus home through the narrow back streets. Their apartment building leaned like it was tired too. A red notice was taped to the door. "Final warning. Pay or leave." Naomi pulled it down before Marcus could read it, but his face had already changed. "Are they putting Mama out?" he asked. Naomi forced her voice steady. "Not while I am breathing." Inside, Ruth Brooks sat on the edge of the bed, wrapped in a faded blanket. Her face was thin, but her eyes were sharp. "You gave it away," Ruth said before Naomi could speak. Naomi froze. "How did you know?" Ruth pointed to Naomi's apron. The red string was gone. "You only tear that string when someone needs food more than you do." Naomi knelt beside her mother. "He was blind, Mama." They were laughing at him. Ruth closed her eyes. Pain crossed her face, but it was not only sickness. "What did you write on the box?" Naomi looked up slowly. "No one eats alone." Ruth's hand began to tremble. "Who saw it?" Before Naomi could answer, headlights swept across the cracked window. Not 5 SUVs. Not yet. Just one silent black sedan, too clean for that street, idling near the curb. Inside it, Denise lifted her phone. Sir, the mother reacted to the phrase. The man turned his face toward the apartment window. Then Ruth Brooks remembers Miriam. At that same moment, Vanessa stood in her office, replaying the alley footage. She paused on the meal box, zoomed in on the red string, and her smile vanished. No, she whispered. She was never supposed to have that sentence. The pharmacy clerk looked through the glass window at Naomi Brooks, then down at the pause video on her phone, where Vanessa Price had labeled Naomi a thief before sunrise. The clerk pulled the medicine bag back before Naomi could touch it. Payment first. Naomi placed the wrinkled pharmacy receipt on the counter with both hands. It had dried crooked overnight. The ink had bled at the edges. But Ruth Brooks's name was still there. Kidney medication. $48. I have $14 now, Naomi said. Please hold the pills until tonight. The clerk looked at Naomi's faded diner uniform, the grease stain near her collar, and the torn loop where the red apron string used to be. We do not hold medicine for people causing trouble online. A man in line leaned sideways to see Naomi's face. An old woman with a cane went quiet. Naomi did not shout. She did not tell the whole alley story. She folded the receipt and held it against her palm. My mother did not cause trouble, she said. She just needs her pills. The clerk looked past her. Next. Naomi stepped away, but when the old woman dropped a bottle of aspirin, Naomi still bent down. The pills scattered across the floor like white beads. The man in line sighed. Naomi gathered each one, wiped the bottle cap with her sleeve, and handed it back. Everybody needs somebody when their hands shake. The old woman looked at her for 1 second, like she had finally seen the person behind the uniform. Then the clerk called louder, "Next customer." The moment closed. Outside, the city had already chosen a label for Naomi. Thief. Beggar feeder. Poor woman with a story. At the bus door, the driver watched her count coins and said, "You need enough before you step up." Naomi opened her palm. 4 coins. Not enough. Marcus reached into his school pocket and gave her 2 more. I was saving it for lunch, he said. Naomi closed his fingers around the coins. Keep it. Marcus looked down. Mama needs medicine more than I need lunch. Naomi paid with her last coins and stood the whole ride because a man in a clean gray coat had placed his briefcase on the empty seat and never moved it. Across town, inside the black sedan, Denise Carter listened to a quiet voice through her earpiece. Vanessa pushed the edited clip to 3 staff accounts, Denise said. Elijah Whitmore sat in the back with the crush meal box on his lap. His dark glasses hid his eyes, but not the tension in his jaw. Get the original camera feed, he said. Not her version. Denise glanced at the red string tied around the box. And Ruth Brooks? Keep looking. At the apartment, the landlord waited by the stairs with a clipboard. He did not ask about Ruth. He did not greet Marcus. He pointed at the red notice Naomi had pulled from the door. End of day. Naomi held her chin steady. I lost my job yesterday. That sounds like your problem. Ruth coughed inside the apartment, a dry sound that made Marcus flinch. Naomi stepped between the landlord and the door. You can insult me outside. You will not do it where my mother can hear. The landlord stared at her. Surprised by the quiet line, she refused to let him cross. Then his phone buzzed. He read a message and smiled. Your manager says you're coming back for your final pay. Maybe she can teach you character. That was how Naomi walked back toward the diner before noon. Not because she wanted to face Vanessa. Because Ruth needed medicine. Because Marcus needed food. Because poor people were often forced to return to the same doors that had humiliated them. The front entrance was full of polished shoes and lunch reservations. A hostess looked at Naomi's uniform and pointed without meeting her eyes. Staff used the side door. I'm here for my wages, Naomi said. Side door. Near the hallway, Naomi saw a delivery binder open on the stand. The top page carried a blue logo she had never noticed before. Whitmore Community Meals. Under it, in faded print, were 3 words that made her chest tighten. No one eats alone. Naomi stopped breathing for a second. Before she could read more, a security guard stepped in front of her and placed one hand on his radio. From inside the office, Vanessa's voice cut through the air. That is the one. Do not let her near the records. The security guard stepped in front of Naomi Brooks, so fast his shoulder almost touched hers. One hand stayed on his radio. The other blocked the open delivery binder on the hostess stand. Naomi could still see the blue logo on the page behind him. Whitmore Community Meals. Under it, in faded print, were the same 3 words that had followed her from the alley to her mother's bed. No one eats alone. Side door, the guard said. Naomi kept her voice low. I only came for my final pay. Vanessa Price appeared at the office doorway, polished, calm, and smiling like she had not destroyed a woman yesterday. Final pay is for employees who leave with dignity. Naomi held the collar of her torn uniform. You took that from me. The hostess looked down. A server stopped moving. For one small second, the room heard Naomi. Then Vanessa laughed. Listen to her. 1 free meal, and now she thinks she owns the mission. Naomi did not understand that word. Mission. But Vanessa did. She snapped the binder shut before Naomi could read the delivery numbers. Take her to the back. No records. No kitchen. No talking to staff. Across town, inside Whitmore Urban Renewal Group, Denise Carter stood in a glass review room with 6 silent monitors in front of her. The crushed meal box lay on the table beside Elijah Whitmore's hand. The red apron string was still tied around it. Denise played the alley footage. The screen showed Naomi holding the box. Then the video jumped. 1 second, Vanessa was reaching forward. The next, staff phones were already raised. Denise paused it. 46 seconds are missing. Elijah turned his face toward the monitor. Who had access? Manager override. Vanessa Price, he said. Denise looked at the red string. She wanted the accusation recorded, not what came before it. Back at the diner, the guard led Naomi through the service hallway like she was dirt being moved away from the front room. Workers looked at the floor. Troy, the young dishwasher from the alley, stood near the sink with his hands deep in soap water. His face changed when he saw her. Vanessa saw it too. Troy, she said sharply. Eyes on your dishes. Naomi stopped beside him. You do not have to risk your job for me. Troy whispered. The camera saw what happened. Vanessa's heels hit the floor behind them. What was that? Troy froze. Soap dripped from his wrists. Nothing, Miss Price. Tiny Hope rose. Tiny Hope died. Vanessa pushed Naomi into her office. On the desk sat an envelope marked final wages. Beside it was a printed statement. Naomi read the first line and felt her stomach turn. I, Naomi Brooks, admit to removing diner property without permission. She looked up. I will not sign a lie. Vanessa sat down slowly. Then you will not get paid. Naomi thought of Ruth's medicine. Marcus's lunch coins. The eviction notice folded in her bag. Her fingers closed around the wet pharmacy receipt. That money is mine. Your reputation is mine now, Vanessa said. The internet already believes me. In a glass review room, Denise opened the meal delivery files. There is more. The diner billed Whitmore for triple the meals served this month. Elijah's jaw tightened. Show me the oldest records. Denise clicked through the archive. A name appeared on one scan page. Ruth Brooks. Volunteer intake. 15 years ago. Then the next page was blank. Denise leaned closer. The founding witness folder is missing. Elijah's hand stopped on the meal box. Which folder? Miriam Whitmore's first kitchen list. Silence pressed against the glass walls. In Vanessa's office, Naomi noticed the blue Whitmore binder half hidden under menus on the shelf. One page corner stuck out. Ruth Brooks, removed from volunteer list. Naomi's breath caught. Why is my mother's name in your records? Vanessa's hand froze. Your mother has nothing to do with this. Then why are you hiding her? Vanessa stood. Because poor girls who ask rich questions get hurt by the answers. At that moment, the office phone rang. Vanessa looked at the caller ID and lost her smile. Whitmore Legal Review. Denise's voice came through cold and clear. We need the original alley footage and all community meal records by 5 o'clock. Vanessa watched Naomi as she answered. Of course. I will prepare everything. When the call ended, she locked the office door, pulled the blue binder from the shelf, and tore one page free. Naomi stepped back, horrified. Vanessa folded the page into her purse and pressed the intercom. Security, bring Caleb Grant to my office. And keep Naomi here until she signs the story I give her. Vanessa Price pressed the intercom and smiled at Naomi Brooks like the office had become a cage. Security, bring Caleb Grant to my office. And keep Naomi here until she signs the story I give her. Naomi stood beside the desk with a false statement in her hand. Her name was printed at the top. Her shame was typed under it. I, Naomi Brooks, admit to removing diner property without permission. Her fingers trembled, but she did not touch the pen. I will not sign a lie. Vanessa leaned back. Then your mother waits for medicine, your brother waits for food, and your landlord does not wait at all. The words landed exactly where Vanessa wanted them to land. Ruth. Marcus. The red eviction notice. Naomi's softest places. The door opened, and Caleb Grant walked in wearing a navy suit that looked worth more than Naomi's rent for a year. He did not ask why her eyes were wet. He looked at her uniform, then at the paper. This is the employee? Vanessa nodded. Former employee. Possible liability. Caleb placed a slim envelope on the desk. Naomi saw cash inside. Enough for medicine. Maybe enough for rent. Enough to breathe for one night. Sign, Caleb said. Take the money. Leave the diner alone. Naomi looked at the envelope, then at the folded pharmacy receipt in her palm. That money is not kindness. Vanessa smiled. No, it is your last chance. Outside the office, two servers pretended to refill sugar jars. The hostess stood near the hallway. The security guard blocked the exit. I made the room smaller. Naomi could feel the question in their silence. Why would a poor woman refuse money unless she was guilty? Vanessa opened the office door wider. Say it where everyone can hear. Tell them you stole food, and this ends quietly. Naomi thought of the blind man's hands on the crushed meal box. She thought of the red string from her apron. She thought of the words her mother had taught her before poverty taught her shame. No one eats alone. I fed a hungry man, Naomi said. That is all I did. Caleb stepped closer. Rich people call lawyers. Poor people call it unfair. Guess which one wins? A small sound came from the hallway. Troy, the dishwasher, stood there with wet trays in his hands. His eyes moved from Naomi to the security camera above the freezer door. Vanessa followed his gaze. Troy. He swallowed. The freezer camera faces the alley, too. The room went silent. Tiny hope lit Naomi's chest. Vanessa moved fast. She took the trays from Troy and dropped them into the sink with a crash. You are tired, she said. Tired people remember things wrong. Troy stared at the floor. Yes, Miss Price. Hope died, but not completely. Naomi had seen where he looked. She had seen the camera. Vanessa lifted the torn page from the blue Whitmore binder, just enough for Naomi to read the top line. Ruth Brooks, removed for volunteer list. Then she slid it into Caleb's folder. Naomi stepped forward. Why is my mother's name in your records? Vanessa's eyes hardened. Your mother was trouble before you were trouble. Do not talk about my mother. Security caught Naomi's arm. Not hard. Only enough to remind the room who had power. Caleb watched like a man inspecting property. The purchase announcement is tomorrow. We cannot have her near those records. Naomi froze. Purchase announcement. Vanessa was not only hiding a firing. She was clearing the diner for something bigger. Across town, in the glass review room, Denise Carter replayed the alley footage again. 46 seconds were still missing. Elijah Whitmore sat with the crushed meal box on his lap, his thumb resting on the red apron string. There is always another angle, he said. Find it. Denise's phone buzzed. An unknown number had sent a shaky photo. The freezer camera, the blue binder, and part of Ruth Brooks's name on a torn page. Denise enlarged it. Her breath caught. Back in the office, Vanessa pushed the pen toward Naomi one final time. Sign. Naomi placed the pen down. My mother taught me never to trade truth for bread. Vanessa's smile vanished. Caleb picked up his phone. Then we call the landlord now. Before Naomi could move, the office phone rang. Vanessa looked at the caller ID and went still. Whitmore Legal Review. Denise's voice came through cold and clear. Miss Price, do not destroy another page. We're already looking at the freezer camera. Denise Carter's voice froze Vanessa Price in the middle of her lie. Miss Price, do not destroy another page. We're already looking at the freezer camera. Vanessa kept the phone against her ear, but her eyes went straight to the blue binder in Caleb Grant's folder. Naomi Brooks saw the fear before Vanessa covered it with a smile. I have no idea what you mean, Vanessa said. Denise answered coldly. Then send the original files. All of them. Caleb leaned close and whispered. In the call. Vanessa pressed the receiver down, but the room had already changed. The security guard looked toward the freezer hallway. Troy stared at the floor. Naomi looked at the torn page sticking out of Caleb's folder. Ruth Brooks, removed from volunteer list. Her mother's name sat there like a wound nobody wanted to explain. Give me that page, Naomi said. Vanessa laughed. You lost the right to ask for anything. That is my mother's name. Caleb lifted the folder away from her. It is private property. Naomi did not step toward him. She only raised the wet pharmacy receipt in her hand. My mother is not property. For 1 second, even the guard looked ashamed. Across town, inside Whitmore Urban Renewal Group, Denise worked fast. 6 silent monitors lit the glass review room. Elijah Whitmore sat with the crushed meal box beneath his palm, the red apron string still tied around it. Denise opened the backup server for the diner's freezer camera. A grainy angle appeared. Not Vanessa's edited clip. Not the phone video. This camera looked down over the back entrance, the garbage bins, and the moment everyone had lied about. Naomi appeared on screen, holding the meal box. Vanessa pointed toward the trash. Naomi shook her head. The blind man stood in the rain. Then Vanessa struck Naomi's wrist, and the box fell near the puddle. Denise covered her mouth. Sir. Elijah's fingers tightened around the red string. Play it again. The clip continued. Naomi knelt. Vanessa put her heel on the box. Staff phones rose only after the humiliation had already begun. Elijah did not speak for a long moment. Then his voice dropped. She did not steal the food. She saved it. Denise nodded. This clears the alley lie, but not the missing records. Elijah touched the words on the lid. No one eats alone. Then the records are where the real sin is hiding. Back in the diner office, Caleb's phone buzzed. He checked it and went pale. The foundation is asking questions. Vanessa turned on Troy, who was still near the hallway. You sent that photo. Troy's hand shook. No, ma'am. Liar. Naomi stepped forward. Leave him alone. Vanessa snapped. You are not a hero here. Naomi held her chin steady. Neither are you. Caleb opened his folder just enough to hide the torn page. But Naomi saw one more detail before it vanished. A faded blue stamp. Miriam Whitmore Kitchen. Her breath caught. Ruth had whispered that name before. Miriam. The name connected to the sentence. The name Vanessa seemed afraid to hear. Denise's next call came through Caleb's phone by mistake, on speaker. Mr. Grant, we recovered a freezer angle showing the public accusation was incomplete. We are also missing 1 page from the Ruth Brooks volunteer file. If it is in that office, preserve it now. The room went silent. The hostess stopped moving. The guard looked at Vanessa. Troy lifted his eyes. Tiny Hope finally had witnesses. If you're listening right now, remember that page, that camera, and that red string. What do you think Vanessa is hiding from the Whitmore family? Vanessa snatched Caleb's phone and ended the call. Then she smiled like the silence belonged to her. A blurry camera does not make a thief innocent. And old volunteer lists do not pay rent. She turned to the guard. Take Naomi outside. Naomi looked at Troy. Troy looked at the freezer camera. Then, without speaking, he slipped something beneath a stack of napkins near the sink. Naomi saw only the corner of it. A tiny memory card. Vanessa locked the blue binder in the bottom drawer. No more mistakes, she whispered. But across town, Elijah Whitmore had already stood up. Denise held the recovered clip on her tablet. Elijah closed his hand around the crushed meal box. Bring me the woman who fed me, he said. And find out why Ruth Brooks was erased from my wife's kitchen. Bring me the woman who fed me, Elijah Whitmore said, his hand closing around the crushed meal box. And find out why Ruth Brooks was erased from my wife's kitchen. Minutes later, Naomi Brooks was being pushed through the diner's side door, while Vanessa Price stood behind the office glass with the blue binder locked against her chest. The security guard held Naomi by the arm. Caleb Grant held his phone like he was ready to record her next disgrace. Walk fast, Vanessa said. The front room does not need another poor performance. Naomi did not answer. Her eyes went to the stack of napkins near the sink. Troy had hidden the tiny memory card there. She needed it. She knew it mattered. But the guard tightened his grip, and the chance slipped away. Then a black sedan stopped at the back entrance without a sound. Denise Carter stepped out first, dark suit, calm face, tablet in hand. Behind her, the blind man from the alley stepped out slowly, one hand on his white cane, the other holding Naomi's crushed meal box. He still wore the old coat, but the air around him changed. The guard's hand loosened before anyone told him to. "Let her arm go," the blind man said. The guard looked at Vanessa. Vanessa said nothing. The guard let go. Naomi stared at the box in his hand. The red apron string was still tied around it. He had kept it, not thrown it away, not laughed at it, kept it like it mattered. "Sir," Naomi whispered, "you should not be here. They will say I brought you back for money." Elijah turned his face toward her voice. "Did you bring me back for money?" "No." "Then let them lie smaller." Vanessa stepped forward. "This woman was terminated for theft. She has no business with you." Denise lifted her tablet. "She has business with an active review." Caleb's mouth tightened. "A review does not give her permission to trespass." Elijah's voice stayed quiet. "And money does not give you permission to crush the hungry." The words did not shout. They did not need to. For the first time since yesterday, someone with power spoke near Naomi without making her smaller. She looked down quickly, as if kindness itself could bruise. Elijah held the meal box toward her, then stopped before touching her hand. He waited. That pause broke her more than pity would have. He was asking permission without saying the words. Naomi took the box. The cardboard was bent. The lid was stained. The handwriting was still there. "No one eats alone." "Why did you keep this?" she asked. Elijah touched the red string. "Because people throw away things when they think nobody important is watching." Naomi looked toward Vanessa. "I only fed you because you were hungry," she said, "not because you were important." Elijah went still. That answer hit him harder than gratitude. Why protect a man who could not protect you? Naomi swallowed. Troy stood near the dishroom door. Denise lowered her tablet. Even Vanessa listened because she could not stop the room from listening. "Because my father died outside a locked kitchen," Naomi said. "He asked for soup. They told him to come back with money. He never came home." Pain crossed Elijah's face slowly, like an old door opening. Vanessa cut through the silence. "Touching story. Still theft." Naomi turned to her, tired but steady. "You can take my job. You can call me what you want. But you will not make me ashamed of feeding someone." Tiny Hope stood in the hallway. This time it did not vanish. Elijah reached into his coat and placed a worn bronze coin in Naomi's palm. On one side was the blue kitchen logo. On the other were the words Miriam Whitmore Kitchen. "Take this to your mother," he said. "Ask her what she remembers." Naomi looked at the coin. "Why?" His voice lowered. "Because your mother may know where this began." Vanessa stepped back. Caleb noticed. Denise noticed too. Elijah lifted his cane. "Miss Brooks, no one will force you into that office again today." "I do not want charity," Naomi said. "Good," Elijah replied. "Then accept time. Only time." No money changed hands. No apology came. Vanessa was not punished. But Naomi walked home holding the crushed meal box in one hand and the bronze coin in the other. When Ruth Brooks saw the coin, her weak hand flew to her mouth. "Where did you get that?" Naomi knelt beside the bed. "From the blind man." Ruth's eyes filled with terror and memory. "That was Miriam's coin," she whispered. "Naomi, there is something I should have told you years ago." "That was Miriam's coin," Ruth Brooks whispered, and the bronze piece shook in her thin fingers as if it had carried 20 years of fear into their apartment. Naomi knelt beside the bed, the crushed meal box pressed against her chest. The red apron string hung loose from one corner. Marcus stood near the doorway, silent, too young to understand the name, but old enough to feel the room change. "Mama," Naomi said. "Who was Miriam?" Ruth looked at the coin, then at the words on the box. "No one eats alone." Her eyes filled slowly. She was the first rich woman who ever looked at me like I was not poor. Naomi's face tightened. "Then why was your name in Vanessa's records?" Ruth closed her eyes. The memory hurt before the story began. "Because I worked in that kitchen before Vanessa ever had an office. I cooked soup. I packed meals. I tied every box with red string so homeless people could open it with cold hands." Naomi looked down at the torn string from her apron. It was not just a habit. It was inheritance. Ruth reached under her mattress and pulled out a yellow envelope, soft for being hidden too long. I kept this because one day I hoped someone would ask the right question. Inside was an old photograph. Miriam Whitmore stood in front of the first kitchen wall, smiling beside a younger Ruth. Behind them, painted across white brick, were the words "No one eats alone." At the edge of the photo, half cut off, stood a younger Vanessa Price in a white blouse, one hand resting on a blue binder. Naomi's breath caught. Vanessa was there? Ruth nodded. She counted donations. What happened? Ruth's hand moved to her chest. After Miriam died, the meals changed. The numbers changed. Boxes were counted that nobody cooked. Names were removed. People stopped being fed, but the money still came. Naomi looked at the photo again. You knew. Ruth's voice broke. I asked questions. Vanessa told people I was stealing ingredients. My badge stopped working. My name disappeared. Marcus stepped closer. Grandma, why did nobody help you? Ruth looked at him, and the silence was worse than the answer. Because poor women are easy to erase. Outside, the black sedan waited by the curb. Denise Carter watched the apartment window while Elijah Whitmore listened through her phone. He had not entered. He had not forced the story. But when Ruth said Miriam's name, his hand tightened on the cane in his lap. Ask about the letter, he said quietly. Inside, Naomi unfolded the last item in the envelope. It was not a full letter, only the bottom half, torn across the middle. Miriam's signature remained. So did one unfinished line. If this kitchen ever forgets the poor, Ruth Brooks must be protected because she knows. The sentence ended at the tear. Naomi whispered, Knows what? Ruth looked toward the door, afraid even now. I never saw the rest. Vanessa took it from Miriam's desk the night after the funeral. Tiny hope entered Naomi's face. Then there was a full letter. Ruth nodded. And if it still exists, it can tell Elijah what really happened. Naomi looked up. Elijah. Ruth's face changed. That blind man never told you his name? Naomi shook her head. Ruth gripped the coin. Then listen to me. He is not just a beggar. Before she could say more, a hard cough stole her breath. Naomi caught her shoulders. Marcus ran for water. The old photo slid from Ruth's lap and landed face up on the floor, with young Vanessa frozen beside the blue binder. Naomi's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared with a photo of their eviction notice and one sentence. Signed Vanessa's statement by sunset, where your mother sleeps outside tonight. Naomi stared at the screen, cold all over. In the sedan, Denise received another alert from Whitmore Legal. Vanessa had requested emergency access to the old kitchen archive. Elijah turned his face toward the apartment window. She is going after the letter. Ruth opened her eyes, weak but terrified. Naomi, she whispered, do not trust Vanessa. She did not destroy the truth. She hid it where only Miriam's people would know to look. She hid it where only Miriam's people would know to look, Ruth Brooks whispered. Behind the old kitchen wall, where we used to hang the meal tags, Naomi Brooks stared at the torn half letter on the bed, then at the crushed meal box in her hands. The red string hung from one corner like a warning. Her phone buzzed again. Come to the diner by sunset. Sign the statement, where the eviction begins tonight. Marcus read it over her shoulder and went pale. Naomi, please do not go. Naomi slid the torn letter into the meal box under the stained lid. No one eats alone. I'm not going for Vanessa, she said. I'm going for Mama. Outside, Denise Carter watched Naomi leave the building and called Elijah Whitmore from the black sedan. She is walking into a trap. Elijah's hand closed around his cane. Follow her. Do not stop her yet. We still need the last page. At the diner, Vanessa Price had turned a quiet purchase announcement into a public trial. Caleb Grant had invited investors, staff, the landlord, and community leaders. A sign near the counter read, Future site of Grant Luxury Residences. Bright lights glared over polished shoes, phone cameras, folded contracts, and faces ready to trust whoever looked powerful. Vanessa stood beside the blue binder with a soft smile. When Naomi entered through the side door, the security guard blocked her. Right on time, Vanessa said. Naomi lifted the crushed meal box. I came for my mother's name. Vanessa tilted her head. You came to steal records again. A murmur moved through the room. The landlord crossed his arms. A woman near the counter whispered, "That is the one from the video." Caleb raised his voice. "Miss Brooks was fired for theft. Now she returns holding company property and demanding private files. That is a pattern." Naomi's cheeks burned, but she did not lower the box. "You call me here." Vanessa placed the false confession on the counter. Beside it, she placed a new complaint accusing Naomi of using her sick mother's past to extort the diner. Naomi stared at the paper. "You made my mother part of your lie. Your mother began that lie years ago," Vanessa said. The words struck hard. Naomi stepped forward, then stopped herself. She would not give them the anger they were waiting to record. "Open the old kitchen wall," she said. "If there is nothing there, why are you afraid?" For 1 second, Vanessa's eyes flickered. Then Caleb snapped his fingers. 2 workers rolled out a metal trash bin filled with broken wall panels, rusted hooks, old meal tags, and torn strips of paper. "We renovated this morning," he said. "No hidden letter. No secret. Just dust." Naomi looked inside. Her breath caught. There was red string. There were old meal tags. There was a piece of painted wood with the faded word alone. But no letter. Vanessa had reached the wall first. The room turned colder. Phones lifted. The landlord said, "She dragged us here for garbage." Troy appeared near the dish room, pale and shaking. His eyes moved toward the stack of napkins beside the sink, where he had hidden the tiny memory card. Naomi saw the glance. So did Vanessa. "Troy," Vanessa said softly, "do you want your mother to lose her rent discount?" Troy froze. His hand fell back to his side. His eyes filled with shame. The last witness went silent. Naomi felt tiny hope rise, then shake. Vanessa pushed the pen toward her. "Sign it, or I read your mother's eviction notice to this entire room." Naomi looked at the investors, the staff, the landlord, the cameras, and the blue binder. Then she placed the crushed meal box on the counter. "You can take our room," she said. "You cannot make me call my mother a liar." Vanessa smiled like victory had arrived. "Then let everyone see what stubborn poverty looks like." At that exact moment, engines rumbled outside. One by one, headlights swept across the diner windows. The room turned. 5 black SUVs stopped at the curb. Vanessa's smile stayed on her face, but her hand slipped from the blue binder. The front door opened, and Denise Carter stepped in first, holding a sealed evidence bag. Behind her, Elijah Whitmore entered with his white cane, quiet, controlled, and no longer dressed like a beggar. The front door opened, and every phone in the diner turned toward Elijah Whitmore. He stepped inside with his white cane, no longer wearing the torn coat from the alley. His black suit was quiet, sharp, and so expensive that even the investors stopped whispering. Denise Carter walked beside him with a sealed evidence bag in one hand and a tablet in the other. Behind her, Pastor Raymond Ellis paused at the door, holding a red tag archive envelope wrapped in clear plastic. He had found it behind the old meal tag rack before Vanessa's workers stripped the wall. He did not open it. Not yet. Behind them, 5 black SUVs idled at the curb like a wall of power. Vanessa Price kept her smile fixed, but her fingers slipped from the blue binder. Caleb Grant leaned toward her. "Stay calm." Naomi Brooks stood by the counter with the crushed meal box in front of her. The false confession lay beside it. The eviction threat still glowed on her phone. Her hands were cold, but she did not move the box away. It was bent, stained, tied with the same red string. "No one eats alone" faced the crowd like a witness nobody could silence. Elijah stopped a few feet from Naomi. He did not touch her. He only turned toward Vanessa. "Why is she being judged in public?" Vanessa lifted her chin. "Because she made it public. She came here demanding private records." Caleb stepped forward. "Mr. Whitmore, this is an internal employee matter and a real estate transition." Elijah's voice stayed calm. "A hungry woman. A missing file. A deleted camera angle. That is not a transition." The room fell silent. The landlord lowered his phone. The investors looked toward the sign that read future site of Grant Luxury Residences. Troy stood in the kitchen doorway, pale, his eyes flicking toward the stack of napkins beside the sink. Denise followed his glance. She walked over, lifted the napkins, and slid the tiny memory card into the sealed evidence bag without saying a word. Vanessa saw it and went still. Elijah heard the silence change. "Nobody leaves," he said. "Nobody touches the records." Caleb gave a tight laugh. "You cannot turn my announcement into a courtroom." Elijah turned his face toward him, then stopped treating it like an auction for hungry people. The words landed harder than anger. Some investors looked away. Denise connected her tablet to the diner screen, but she did not press play. The blank monitor glowed behind the counter, waiting. Vanessa stepped between the screen and the crowd. "This proves nothing. A poor woman can still lie with tears in her eyes." Troy finally spoke from the kitchen door. She was not lying. Vanessa snapped her head toward him. "Troy." He flinched, but he did not step back. "I saw what happened." Tiny Hope moved through the room. Then his mother, an older cleaning woman near the back, grabbed his sleeve in fear. Vanessa smiled at that fear. "Careful, Troy. Rent discounts disappear quickly." He lowered his eyes. Hope shook again. "If you were standing in that diner, watching a poor woman hold her last proof while powerful people try to bury her, who would you believe, and who deserves justice when that screen finally turns on?" Naomi looked at Troy's mother and did not push him. Even cornered, she would not make another poor family pay for her truth. "Leave him alone," she said. Vanessa laughed. "Still protecting people who cannot save you." Elijah stepped closer to the counter. "That is why I'm listening to her." He picked up the crushed meal box with both hands, careful, almost reverent. The room watched a powerful man hold a poor woman's ruined food box like it belonged in a museum. Vanessa's confidence cracked for 1 second. Pastor Raymond placed the red tag archive envelope beside the box. The seal was old. The paper inside was folded. The top line was hidden, but the bottom edge showed Miriam Whitmore's signature. Naomi saw only the edge. Ruth's torn letter matched it. Caleb saw it too. His face tightened. Vanessa reached for the blue binder. Elijah's cane tapped once against the floor. "Do not." One word. The whole room stopped. Denise looked at Naomi. "Miss Brooks, you do not have to sign anything tonight." Vanessa raised her voice. "She has fooled all of you." Elijah turned toward the screen. "Before anyone judges her again," he said, "they will watch what happened before the phones came out." Denise pressed one button. The diner screen flashed white. Vanessa's face lost its color as the first frozen frame from the freezer camera appeared. The diner screen flashed white. Then the freezer camera filled the wall. Vanessa Price stood beside Naomi Brooks in the alley. The meal box was still clean. No phones were raised yet. Denise Carter pressed play, and weak audio cracked through the speakers. "Throw it away," Vanessa's voice said. "Beggars do not eat from my kitchen." Naomi appeared on screen, tired and scared, holding the dented box with both hands. The blind man stood by the garbage bins in the rain. Then everyone watched Vanessa strike Naomi's wrist. The box fell. Vanessa put her heel on the lid. Only after that did staff phones rise. One by one, the people in the diner lowered their devices. The landlord looked at the floor. The woman from the pharmacy line covered her mouth. Troy's mother began to cry quietly. Naomi said nothing. She only stared at the screen while the lie broke in public without her begging for anyone to believe her. Vanessa stepped forward. "That angle is misleading." Elijah Whitmore turned his face toward her. "Then let the next angle speak." Denise opened the sealed evidence bag and inserted Troy's memory card. A second video appeared from the kitchen hallway. It showed Vanessa dragging Naomi into the office. It showed the false confession on the desk. It showed Caleb Grant placing the cash envelope beside it. His voice came through clear. "Sign. Take the money. Leave the diner alone." Naomi's reply was small, but steady. "That money is not kindness. Vanessa snup. No. It is your last chance." The investors stopped whispering. Caleb's face went gray. That was taken out of context. Elijah did not raise his voice. Context is what poor people are denied. Pastor Raymond Ellis placed the red tag archive envelope on the counter beside the crushed meal box. "This was behind the old meal tag rack," he said, before the wall was stripped. Denise opened it carefully. Inside was the missing top half of Miriam Whitmore's letter. Naomi's torn half matched the bottom edge. The signature matched. The phrase matched. "No one eats alone." Denise read only the lines that mattered. If this kitchen ever forgets the poor, Ruth Brooks must be protected because she knows the meal count and donation ledgers are being changed. The room went silent so deeply that the hum of the refrigerator sounded loud. Naomi's hand covered her mouth. Her mother had not imagined the danger. Her mother had not been trouble. Her mother had been a witness. Vanessa shook her head. Old paper proves nothing. Denise opened the billing files on the screen. One column showed meals billed to Whitmore Community Meals. Another showed meals actually served. The numbers did not match. Triple billing. Removed families. Missing volunteers. Ruth Brooks marked inactive the same week Miriam's letter was torn. Elijah stood very still. Who authorized the removal? Denise clicked once. A name appeared in blue digital ink. Vanessa Price. Phones dropped lower. Nobody said thief now. Caleb raised both hands. Vanessa managed local operations. My company had no knowledge of this old kitchen history. Denise clicked again. The purchase draft appeared. It showed Caleb's plan to close the meal program before the sale, using Vanessa's report that the neighborhood no longer needed food support. Naomi looked at the future site sign, and her voice broke. You are going to erase them too. Vanessa pointed at her. She is making herself the victim. Naomi trembled. No, you made my mother one first. Elijah lifted the crushed meal box for the room to see. This woman gave me her last food when she had every reason to keep it. And this box carried more truth than every clean report in this building. Vanessa's face twisted. You are trusting a poor girl over me? Elijah answered, quiet and final. I am trusting evidence over performance. Pastor Raymond held his phone on speaker. Ruth Brooks's weak voice filled the diner. Miriam knew. Vanessa took the letter after the funeral. I saw her. Vanessa backed into the counter. She is sick. She is confused. Ruth's voice shook but held. I was poor, Vanessa. I was not blind. Naomi began to cry, not because she was weak, but because her family's pain had finally been spoken out loud and the world had not laughed. Elijah turned to Vanessa with the restored letter on the counter between them. One question, he said. If Ruth Brooks was lying, why did you hide her name for 15 years? Vanessa opened her mouth, but no answer came. Vanessa Price opened her mouth, but no answer came. The whole diner watched her stand beside the blue binder while Miriam Whitmore's restored letter lay on the counter, joined again after 15 years of fear. Elijah Whitmore did not step closer. He did not shout. He let the silence do what anger could not. The silence made Vanessa smaller. It made Caleb Grant look at the floor. It made the landlord lower his phone as if the camera in his hand had become shame. Naomi Brooks stood beside the crushed meal box, trembling, but upright. For the first time, nobody called her a thief. Nobody laughed at her uniform. Nobody told her to use the side door. Denise Carter lifted the folder. Whitmore Urban Renewal Group is suspending all local meal funding under Vanessa Price's control. The grant purchase agreement is frozen. All records will be preserved. All staff retaliation is prohibited. Caleb's face tightened. You cannot freeze a transition because of one emotional scene. Elijah faced him. This is not emotion. This is evidence. Vanessa gripped the counter. I kept this diner alive. Troy's mother stepped forward from the back, her cleaning gloves still on. You kept us afraid. Vanessa turned on her. Careful. But the word had lost its teeth. The security guard who had blocked Naomi all morning stepped away from Vanessa's side. That small movement changed the room. A man who had filmed Naomi in the alley lowered his head. I posted the clip, he said. I did not ask what happened before. Naomi looked at him through tears. She did not attack him. Then take it down, she said softly. Tell the truth louder than you told a lie. He nodded, ashamed. Elijah placed the crushed meal box in the center of the counter. The red string lay across the lid like a thin line holding the truth together. This box fed a hungry man, he said. It also exposed a hungry system. Vanessa gave a sharp, desperate laugh. You're all acting like she is special because she wrote a sentence on trash. Naomi touched the stained cardboard. It was not trash to him. Elijah turned toward her voice. And it was not trash to Miriam. Vanessa's hands shook. Miriam is dead. Her work is not, Elijah said. Denise opened another document. Vanessa Price authorized the removal of Ruth Brooks from volunteer records. She then used that removal to reject Ruth's witness statement. She also signed reports claiming community need had dropped, while internal logs show families were turned away. Pastor Raymond Ellis looked toward the crowd. My church sent people here for meals. They came back hungry. One investor whispered, "We were not told that." Caleb raised both hands. Vanessa handled operations. I relied on her reports. Denise turned one page. Your purchase proposal used those reports to close the kitchen within 30 days. The room turned toward Caleb. His confidence cracked. Vanessa pointed at him. He wanted the building. He knew enough. Caleb snapped back. You changed the numbers. Their partnership split in public. Not by force, by truth. Elijah lifted one hand, and the argument stopped. Both of you will answer to auditors and counsel. Not to a mob. Not to me tonight. To the record. Vanessa searched for one last place to hurt Naomi. Your mother still has no money. Your rent is still due. Do you think one rich man standing beside you fixes poverty? Naomi flinched, but she did not break. No, she said, but the truth fixes the lie you built on us. Ruth's weak voice came through Pastor Raymond's phone. Naomi. Naomi turned toward the sound. Mama. Marcus's small voice came next, shaking. Do they hear you now? Naomi covered her mouth. Yes, baby. They heard. The room went still. Vanessa looked away first. Denise placed a clean envelope in front of Naomi. Your unpaid wages. No confession attached. Naomi stared at it, then at Elijah. I will take what I earned. Nothing more tonight. Elijah nodded. That is why you could be trusted with more later. Vanessa was told to step away from the binder. She refused at first. Then the same guard who had once held Naomi's arm held out his hand to Vanessa. Miss Price, please move back. No one cheered. That made it worse. Just the sound of power changing sides. Elijah laid Miriam's restored letter beside Naomi's crush box. Miss Brooks, he said, your family was not erased because it was small. It was erased because it was dangerous to people who profited from hunger. Naomi understood then why Ruth had carried fear for so many years. Elijah lowered his voice. Tomorrow, I want you, Ruth, and Marcus at Whitmore Kitchen. There is a wrong that must be repaired properly. Naomi walked out with her name restored, but not yet knowing what door Elijah was about to open next. The next morning, Naomi Brooks arrived at Whitmore Kitchen with Ruth on one side and Marcus on the other. She did not come through the back. She did not wait by the service door. She walked through the front entrance, still wearing the same tired shoes, but no longer carrying shame that did not belong to her. Above the clean stone hallway, the wall carried the words, "No one eats alone." Naomi stopped beneath them and held the crushed meal box against her chest. She had not fixed it. She had not hidden the stains. The cardboard stayed bent, scarred, and tied with a red apron string, because some things did not need to look perfect to tell the truth. Elijah Whitmore stood near the old kitchen wall with Denise Carter and Pastor Raymond Ellis. His cane rested in front of him. His voice was quiet. Welcome home, Mrs. Brooks. Ruth covered her mouth. I was erased from this place. Elijah nodded. Today, your name goes back where it should have been. Denise placed a folder on the table. Inside were Ruth's restored founding record, Naomi's cleared employment statement, Marcus's school support letter, and medical care authorization for Ruth's treatment. Naomi stared at the papers and stepped back. I cannot accept being bought. Elijah did not look offended. Good. Then do not accept charity. Accept repair. Naomi looked at the crushed box in her hands. Repair is different. Yes, Elijah said. Repair admits someone broke what they had no right to touch. Ruth touched the folder with shaking fingers. Miriam would have wanted the hungry fed, not speeches. Elijah's face tightened with grief. Then we will feed them. Marcus lifted the bronze coin from Ruth's palm and held it beside the red string on the box. So Grandma belonged here before they erased her? Ruth nodded, tears falling softly. Yes, baby. Marcus looked at Elijah, then put her picture back. The room went silent. Elijah turned toward the wall. We will. A worker brought out the old photograph. Miriam Whitmore, young Ruth Brooks, and the first kitchen sign. This time, nobody cut the edges. Nobody hid the uncomfortable parts. The full photo went into a frame, with a small note beneath it naming Ruth as a founding witness and naming the lie that tried to remove her. Vanessa's final consequence was not violence. It was memory. Her access was revoked. Her records were sent to auditors and counsel. Caleb Grant's purchase deal stayed frozen. Their names would now live in the file they tried to bury. No shouting, no revenge, just truth, written where the public could read it. Later that day, the diner sign came down. Not to build luxury apartments. Not to erase hungry families. It came down so a new sign could rise. The Ruth Brooks Community Kitchen, powered by Miriam Whitmore's promise and directed by Naomi Brooks. Naomi stared at the appointment letter in Elijah's hand. "I worked in the back," she whispered. Elijah answered, "You listened in the back. You saw people when others saw numbers. That is leadership." Naomi looked at Ruth. Ruth nodded once. Not because the road ahead would be easy, but because dignity had finally returned without asking Naomi to sell her soul. Weeks later, the same alley where Vanessa had tried to throw food away smelled of soup, greens, and cornbread. Marcus stacked meal boxes after school. Ruth sat near the counter, warm, treated, and smiling beneath her own name on the wall. Elijah visited quietly and asked for no praise. The first box Naomi packed was simple. Bread, greens, stew, a red string tied gently around the lid. Then she wrote the words by hand. "No one eats alone." A little girl at the door asked, "Do I have to pay?" Naomi knelt until their eyes were level. "Not with money," she said. "Just promise me you will never laugh at someone who is hungry." The child nodded and held the box with both hands. Naomi stood in the warm kitchen light, no longer filmed in shame, but watched with respect. She had not become powerful by forgetting hunger. She became powerful by refusing to let hunger steal her heart. Never look down on the poor. Never judge a person by worn shoes, tired hands, or a torn uniform. The truth may be buried, but it is never dead. Those who profit from cruelty will answer for it. And kindness, even when crushed under someone's heel, never loses its value.